Hey, my name is Mike, and in this video, I'll show you how to build your very own beautiful and professional website, click by click, as you follow along throughout this video. And of all the websites I've built, I find Wix is one of the best ones for beginners because it's not only very easy to use, but it's also free to get started and it scales with your business. So if you want to grow and have a lot of products on there or a blog, or you really want to rank on Google, all of that is very possible, as Wix is really quite a powerful platform. So with that being said, I'm going to talk about a lot in this video, from creating your account to designing your website to adding products. If you want, you don't have to sell anything, but you could sell services or products or subscriptions, and I'll show you how to do that. I'll also show you some backend stuff to help you rank on Google and other really important things that I think you need to know. So if you're ready to get started, first of all, congratulations. I'm excited for you to make your first website. And second of all, to make sure that you're able to successfully build your website, I recommend either saving the link to this video or at the very least, writing on a piece of paper, Santrel Media Wix tutorial. That way, if you lose this video or maybe in a couple days have a question about how to do something on Wix, you can simply look that up and find me and revisit whatever you need in this video. Lastly, I do have timestamps down below, so if you want to visit or jump to different sections in this video, you can absolutely do that. And YouTube has playback controls, so if you want to play this a little faster or a little slower, you can build at your own pace. Now, let's get started on my laptop here. We make videos like this completely free, and to fund our work, we use affiliate links, which means at absolutely no extra cost to you, if you decide to use our link, santrelmedia.com/Wix, we may get a small commission that, like I said, helps to fund free videos like this. So I'm going to type in santrelmedia.com/Wix. It's also in the description down below, and it should bring you to a page that looks something like this. Don't be alarmed if it looks a little bit different. You should see a button somewhere on here that says Get Started. I'm going to click on that button, and creating your account is easy. You can do it with Google, with Facebook, or you can enter your email and your password on the left side, and then just click Sign Up. Now, Wix is going to ask us a few questions. Feel free to answer these. It's really just going to customize your dashboard. I'm going to click Skip because it doesn't actually matter what you answer there. Now we have a choice. We can either go to Wix Studio or continue with Wix. Wix Studio is going to be a little bit more advanced. It's more like if you're an agency trying to build websites for clients, whereas Wix is going to be better for building your first website. I'm going to select Wix, and now we can either set this up using a little AI chat, which is definitely improving quite a bit, but I think it's probably not the best way for beginners to make their first website. So I'll select Setup Without Chat. And once again, it's going to ask more questions about our site. I'm going to skip this, but feel free to answer your own questions here. Now we need to name our website. Now I'm going to be making a website for a business that sells sunglasses, and I'm going to call this Caldea Coast Sunglasses. We can then say continue, and you can choose the goals for your website as well. So maybe I'm trying to, get appointments or sell products or manage events. There's many different things you can do. So maybe I'm trying to sell products and promote brand awareness. I'll say continue. And now it's recommending different site apps. So all of that's really just to help it find different things for you, but you can always find them all right here anyway. So I mentioned that Wix is good at scaling up, and one of the reasons for that is because of all of these options here. And we can add all of these later, and there are quite a few other ones. So maybe I want to add blog, for example, and I think that's probably good for now. I'm going to add and continue. And now Wix is adding that to our website. Then it'll bring us to our dashboard, and we're now on our Wix dashboard. Now I want to choose my domain. So I'm just going to go with caldeacoastsunglasses.com. I think it should be available. We'll say let's go. And it is worth noting that a lot of times you can find these domains slightly cheaper on other websites like GoDaddy or Namecheap, but the difference is pretty negligible. A lot of times something on Wix might be $18 a year, and it might be $16 per year on Namecheap, but that often comes with a headache of connecting your domain. So I don't usually recommend that. I'm going to say let's go and say make it yours, and it's going to allow me to buy the domain right here and automatically connect it to my website. So this prompt here is just simply explaining that you cannot connect a domain to a free Wix plan. So if you plan on not having this website run professionally, maybe it's just for a school project or just a personal website for fun, then don't worry about adding a domain. If you are a business, you pretty much need a domain. So I'm going to continue, and that pushes us to at least the basic plan that they have. Wix has quite a few plans to choose from. I recommend for beginners, you can probably do just fine with the core plan here, which is also the cheapest right now. This may be a little bit overwhelming here, but you can choose how long you're going to have your plan for. So you can pay monthly, which is the most expensive. It's worth it if you plan on having your website for no more than 3 months. But For pretty much anybody else, yearly is kind of the minimum I would recommend. If you know you're definitely going to have the website for the long haul, it may be worth it to get the 3-year plan. You are going to spend more money up front, but at the same time, it also locks in a cheaper rate. For the sake of this video, I'm going to go with yearly and continue to check out. This also does come usually with a free domain. I'm going to instead just get one domain. I don't need .net. I'm not sure why it's recommending that, but whatever, we're going to go with just a basic one. And as I mentioned before, Wix does give you a free domain for 1 year with that base plan. So if we just go down to 1 year, it should be free. Okay, so we're going on a little bit of a tangent here. If you eventually want to get an email, I'll talk about how to do that later in the video. I'm going to click on Go to Domains on the bottom, and it may take up to 30 minutes for this to actually process. And now we are on our Wix dashboard. First, I just want to start designing this website so we can actually get some progress and see what we're really working with here. So on the top right, you'll see Design Site. I'm going to click on that. Now we can choose if we're going to generate a design with AI, which as I mentioned before is getting better, but not quite there yet, or if we want to pick a template, or you could just set it up from scratch. I'm going to pick a template. I find that this is the easiest way to get started, especially for beginners, and there are a lot of templates to choose from. At the top, you can look at all templates. You can sort by type. So e-commerce, I am selling something on this as a sunglasses shop, so that makes sense for me. And then from there, you could say, all right, maybe this is fashion and clothing. It's going to be sports and outdoors. You can choose whatever makes the most sense for your brand. And with these, I recommend not worrying too much about the colors or the fonts. All of that is quite easy to change. Really what we're looking for here is a little head start on the overall layout and the design and the feel of our website. So I kind of like this first one right here. I'm going to have kind of a beachy vibe going on, but I like the idea of having, here, let's click on view. I like the idea of having this primary image, the primary banner, kind of blending in with the header on the top. I like this site. I want to edit this one. Also, it's worth noting that a lot of your visitors are not going to be on desktop. You want to see what these websites look like on mobile as well. So this looks a little weird on mobile, but again, I'm going to change that image and it's going to look a lot better with the image that I have. So I like this website. I'm going to click on edit this site, and that will bring us into the Wix editor. One small thing that you want to take note of is some of these templates are just basic Wix and some of them are Wix Harmony. That is going to make a slight difference, as you can see over here with the one that I selected. It is bringing us into Wix Harmony. Now, if you don't choose one that is a Wix Harmony editor, don't worry. I'll have a timestamp down below. You can fast forward a little bit and I'll show you quickly how the other editor is working as well. Now, as you might have noticed, I've been resisting a lot of the AI stuff in the design tools here throughout this video. This is the first one that I'm kind of embracing. It's pretty useful, and I think for beginners, this can be a helpful way to solve some things and get past some hurdles that are otherwise a little bit confusing. Now, this design tool on the left side, is you can see, is our entire website right there. On the right side, we have the ability to kind of just tell it what we want to do. We can also click on things and actually edit them very manually. So this image right here, for example, I want to change that. Before I go into changing it, I just want to point out the general layout of this website. This is what's called a section layout. It's very common and most websites have this. So we have one big section on the top that is kind of our main header section, also known as the banner on your website. Below that, this entire thing is one section here. Then this is all one section. They call it promotional. So let's start with the first one and let's change this image. I can just click on the image so it's outlined and it says image right up in the top corner right there. See where it says image in blue? So that's how I know I selected this image. I can then either edit the image or in this case, replace the image. Now I can upload media, and from here you can choose if you want to get this from Google Drive, from Facebook, from Instagram, or you could even connect a Dropbox to this. I'm going to upload from my computer though, and just click on upload from computer. We have a few basic tools, so you can create a video, you can cut out the background, you can crop and edit this. I'm just gonna leave it as it is and say update, and that'll just swap out the photo. So that's a pretty good start. I think this is already looking obviously a little bit more like a sunglass shop, but this text down here is kind of just in the wrong place. So the next thing you want to do with Wix websites is going to be move and edit text. In order to do that, you simply click on the text and you can drag it to wherever you want. You'll see we have these little green lines popping up as I move around. So this is snapping to a grid. You can find it should line up with the middle right about there. And if we double click on the text, we can edit the actual text. I want the text to be centered. And if I click on all text options, I could choose the size of this and make it more of a header style. We also have some kind of consistent styles throughout the website. So if we click on custom style, we can go to heading 1, and it'll go with what is currently the heading style for this website. Now that made everything a little bit larger, and to resize this, you'll see we have these little white bars on the left and right, so I can click and drag that over. But I still want to remain centered, so if I hold down the Option button on Mac, it's slightly different on Windows, I believe the Alt button would do this, it'll allow you to scale it evenly on both sides. Let's add my brand name there, and I want to change the color of this by highlighting it and selecting a white color for this text. We can also change the font. Okay, so I changed the font, I changed the size, and I dragged it around a little bit. These tools are fairly familiar for most people. If you've ever edited a Word document, for example, you'll be familiar with changing the font and everything like that. Something that's interesting though, that you may not have seen here, is this little link button right here. So if we have any text that we want to link elsewhere, we can simply click on the link button and choose what we're going to link to. We can link to a different page on our website. We can open this in a new tab or in the current tab. So maybe right here, we're going to open up in a new tab, and we can select which page. Maybe it's going to be a product page, for example. And then we can just click on done. So I don't like how that underlines it, so I'm going to click on the underline button, and that removes the underline. By the way, if there's ever anything that you do by accident that you don't want, the undo button is on the top right. Now, one more edit with this first section here, you'll see the image, this background image that I added, is currently leaving a blank space on the bottom. So this section has a little extra space. I'm going to click and drag this up just so it ends up with the bottom there. So we've got this little container right here. Let's move that up. Let's move this text up a little bit more. And then we can click and drag this to the bottom of that photo. If there's anything you don't like on your website, you can click on it and you can simply hit the backspace button. So this text right here, click on it, click backspace, and it disappears. To add things to your site then, on the top left, you can click on add. We have what are called elements, and these could be anything from text boxes to buttons, to images, to little moving things, tons of things, including options to subscribe to newsletters and add videos and maps and things like that. So let's say we want to add a button. I'm going to click a button, and you can simply drag it over and drop it wherever you like. Maybe right in the middle, I think would look pretty good. If we double click on the button, we can choose what the text is there. So I could say shop the collection, and we could close out of that and edit the link for it. Again, linking to our products. We don't have any products on here yet. I'll add this later, but I'm just going to link to a product page and click done. We could change the design of this button as well by exploring designs, and you'll see we have lots and lots of button designs. You can customize this as much as you would like, and you could do this either from the left side right here with all these options. So maybe I really like the way this one looks, or maybe this one, but then again, maybe instead you want to use the AI over on the right side to edit this one. So let's say make the background transparent and add rounded corners. We'll hit enter. And as you can see, it's adjusting the button style for us. You can also ask more complicated questions like add a glassy, translucent finish to it and add a shadow behind the button. Now, without spending too much time on the button, I want to move on to other aspects of this website. On the bottom, we have what's called a container. In the container, you have several different elements in there. So we've got an image, we've got text, we've got a little more text right there, and this is a button. So we can customize all of this, including the container, simply by replacing the background there. We can replace the image. We could double click on that text and change what it says. And you can move things around as well, all within this one container. And the benefit of a container is that you can click and move the entire thing around and everything stays as a group. Now, when I go to replace the colors of this, I think now is probably a good time to edit the colors of our brand. If I click on edit brand colors, we can change the palette, and this is going to be used throughout the website. I find it very useful so you're not changing the colors on every single thing. There are a lot of palettes to choose from. You can also customize this as well, but I think this one right here matches fairly well with what I'm trying to design here. So I'll roll with this one right now. We're going to close that out. And as I mentioned, you can customize those if you need to. Some images, when you drop them in, will not actually line up right. So if you double click on them, you'll see we're able to slide them around until they line up with where we want them in that box. Then simply click elsewhere and the photo's good to go. So those are the basic tools for editing one section. If you want to add a new section, you can simply hover between two sections, click on add section, and we can either generate with AI, we can find a pre-designed section, or just make a blank section. If you make a blank one, then you can slide it up and down, make it larger or smaller as you feel would fit best. And then as I mentioned, you can add elements over on the left side just by clicking add and then clicking and dragging anything over into your section. Wix does a really good job, of course, of making it very free to drag it anywhere. So it'll show you those lines as I mentioned, but you can really line it up however you would like. If you don't like a section, again, click on section, click on backspace, and the section goes away. When uploading images, sometimes double clicking doesn't allow you to change it. Instead, you get this little blue dot, which allows you to kind of move it around and choose what the focus of the photo actually is. So this is pretty well centered, as you can see right here, and we don't need to move it. But you can see that moves it up and down. This over here, for example, if I click replace background, dragging that over here would make the man entirely out of frame. So I'm going to put that right here. Wix also lets you duplicate or kind of edit things in other ways. So if I right click on this text right here, I can either delete it, I can copy, paste it, pin it to the screen, arrange it in different ways. So if I want the button to be in front of the text or the other way around, I can do that using the arrange button here. Let's say duplicate that. And I want this to say, okay, so I want it to say something like that. I think that looks a little bit better. And we can, again, rearrange things as we see fit. So our homepage is starting to actually look pretty decent here. I really like the way this is turning out, and you can continue editing all the way down the entire page until you get to the bottom. On the bottom and on the top, we have what are called footer and header. The footer here is something that you can edit, and this will remain on every page throughout your entire website. So if we go from your home page to your about page, the footer is always going to be there. And the same thing is true with the header. Although you can edit them in a really similar way, just by clicking on them, you can change their behavior. So are they going to stay fixed? Are they going to disappear as you scroll? Do they fade? Or they overlap the next section? You can replace the background of them. You can add corners. You can add a shadow on there. There's a lot of things you can do right here, but I like it the way it is, and I'm not going to change the header at all. The footer, though, is a little bit noisy, and there's a lot going on down here. So similarly, you can click and drag things around, and you can delete them as you maybe don't want this. You just click delete. We have our logo in the bottom corner. Let's delete that. And this right here says secured by Wix. We don't need Wix to show up anymore because we are upgrading this to a premium plan. Let's drag that up and make this a little smaller. And now that actually looks a little bit more. All right, that's a kind of funky way to arrange it, but that kind of looks a little bit better in my opinion. All these sections also have names, so when you're building a more complex website, it may be easier to name different sections. So when I hover over this, it says promotional. I can click on the pencil icon and just rename this section. So maybe this is going to be summer collection. And we can add a link to this section as well right here. I'm actually going to copy this, and I want to show you one really interesting thing that you can use on a button. So this button up here, I know originally I had it linking over to the product page, but instead you can link to what's called an anchor. So if I click on link, I can customize this link. And as I mentioned before, you could link to a page, you could link to a product, you could link to a number of different things on here. You could also link to documents. So if you had files here, you can link to phone numbers and emails if it's a contact button. You could link to a different address. Maybe it's your YouTube channel, for example, or you can link to a section. So on this page, I have the section at the bottom, which was named. I have it on my clipboard right now. So this home page, and the section is the summer collection. So this is what's called an anchor. When you click on this, it'll automatically scroll down. Now, on the top, one other thing to note, this should automatically be saving. Wix does a really good job of auto-saving, but just in case you don't see this little cloud with a little check mark, make sure you save this whenever you don't see that. And let's edit this section just as one more example for the editing of the website, and then we'll move on to the next step for this video. So clicking on this right here, we can change the layout, and right now we have no layout. So this section is just a regular section. You can put things in there. Maybe we want to have two images on there, and so we can divide the section in two, and we can move where this dividing line is. We can flip different sides, and we can add a third column in there, but I don't really need that right here, so I'm going to undo that. So if we delete those two cells, it brings us back to change layout. And again, you could add different layouts on here. I don't really need this section altogether, but let's change the image and just keep something here. Okay, so our website is starting to look pretty good. I'm going to publish this. All right, so let's talk about how the other editor works very briefly. So a lot of these are Wix Harmony. I like it for beginners. I think it's very useful, but this one right here does not use Wix Harmony. If I go to edit, you'll see the editor is a bit different. The primary difference here is that we don't have the AI chat on the right side that can do stuff for us, but otherwise it is essentially the same editor. I can click and drag things around just as I would on the other editor. So for example, if I want maybe this text to be moved to the right, I can just click and drag it anywhere I want. If I want to add something in, you click on the plus, that it brings up the elements you can choose from. I actually do kind of prefer this layout for finding things. It's a little bit easier than the Harmony editor when you're looking for elements, but nonetheless, you get used to where things are. But let's say I wanted to add a button. Once again, you just click and drag that over, and you can drop it anywhere on the page. We also have, of course, the ability to add sections on the left side, or just like before, you can hover between them and add a section that way. We can also review the pages right here. You can also toggle between them, as I showed you on the top right here, toggle between the pages. But if you want to add a new page or something like that, click on pages, and you can rearrange them. You can customize your site menu, which is of course on the top. And then it's true for both Harmony and this classic editor. So let's go back to home. I'm not sure why I'm editing the product page there, but if we go to pages and menu, you can go to site menu and you can customize what this actually looks like. So if I want about to show up to the left of technology, I can just click and drag that up and that will rearrange it. If I want to get rid of careers, I could simply hide that from the menu and that'll go away from the menu. Below that, we've got some site design options. So the theme, the colors and things like that. And of course we have the apps down here if you want to, add some other things on here, which we'll talk about later in the video. But nonetheless, the editor on the Wix Classic version here is very similar to Harmony. However, you don't have the AI chatbot on the right side that can do some of the more advanced things for you that are, kind of does make it a little bit easier if you ever get stuck and don't know how to edit something. Now back to the Harmony editor that we were using, a couple things that I want to show you here. One is we can change the scale. So if we want to kind of zoom out and look at the big picture here, see how all these layouts fit, we can go like that. We could just do that. And we are able to move sections up and down using these little edit. This allows us to zoom out and see all the sections and how they kind of feel together. And if you want to move sections around, on the left side, you have these little tools here. So you can move this section down, you could move it back up. So if I just click on the up button, it'll move it up. And we can also click on this button right here to select the section. And we can do the editing from there. I always just click on the section in the middle and it usually does a good job. But if you have a lot of things on the section, then it might make sense to kind of zoom out and click on in that sense. We can also copy and paste and duplicate sections just by clicking on those three dots, just as another option there. And if we wanted to, we could also just go back to fit to screen and continue our editing. It's also worth noting, as I said before, that not everyone's going to be visiting this from a desktop. So you can look at the mobile site by clicking on mobile right there. And this is a responsive site. That's a term for websites that look good on both desktop and mobile. And so that means that it's going to copy everything over and rearrange it in a way that would fit pretty well on mobile. You can see here, though, that not everything fits very well. So we do need to make some changes to this right here. So maybe I want to change how this fits. And any changes we make here are not going to impact the desktop site. They're going to impact how they fit on the mobile site here. So this image, for example, needs to be completely resized. So I'll resize it like that. So this looks a lot better. And if we go back to desktop, you'll see it doesn't move everything around. Still looks good on desktop as it did before. So I think this website's really coming along. Again, make sure you're publishing this as you go. We'll click on publish and it should be going to that domain. I can then say view site. It'll open in a new tab and we can interact with this. And I recommend doing this on as many different devices as possible so you can see what does this look like on an iPad or a TV or on a different laptop or a desktop, just so you know what your website's really going to look like. But this is a really good start. I think this is pretty solid for a website just to get started, but let's talk about some of the next steps we have. Going back to the editor here, you can do the same style of editing for different pages on your website. So the contact page or maybe the FAQ page, clicking on any one of these brings you into essentially the same editor, but for that specific page. And I think you can figure out how to edit that. Clicking on the Wix icon on the very top allows us to go back to the dashboard, clicking on go to dashboard. And from here, we can do some important backend things. Maybe you want to add products. Maybe you want to add some of those other applications I showed you, such as booking or store or blog. And we can do that right here. So by clicking on apps, we're able to add the other ones that are available. Some of them are not even from Wix. You can see there are a number of other integrations and apps you can get. And of course, there are a ton that are directly from Wix that you can add to your website. So maybe I want to go and start editing those products. I can go to catalog, go to store products, and then click on products. Now, there are some kind of dummy products that came with the store or with this template when we got it. So I'm going to select all of them and we can just delete these. We don't need those products because they're not ones we're actually selling. I can click on new product then, and we can choose, do we want to have a physical product? Do we have a digital product that's going to be downloadable for them, such as an ebook or music, for example, or a wallpaper for your phone? And we also have print on demand options. That's a story for another video. And if you want, leave a comment below and I can talk about print on demand on Wix. Let's talk about physical products first. So physical products, I'm going to add just a pair of sunglasses. We can name them. We can add a little ribbon there and say, maybe these are new, or maybe these are our best sellers. So let's say bestseller for this one. and the brand is our brand. And we can add a little description to this as well. Or you can generate the AI text right here if you would prefer. I generally discourage using AI to create text because I find that it doesn't rank as well on Google, but you know, if it works for you, then it works for you. I don't know. I'll use one of them just for the sake of this video. We can choose our pricing down here. You can also add your cost of goods, but this is not going to be shown to the end viewer or the end customer. This is just so you can track your own profit and your own margins. And if you're selling something like vitamins, maybe you have a price per unit. And so you could say that, you know, it's like £5 and you have 100 in there, then it's going to show you like exactly what that's going to be. We can also add our media, so the images or videos for your product. You can hold down Command on Mac or Control on Windows and select multiple, and we can add that media. The largest one on the left side is going to be the main photo that's shown first. And if we click on crop and edit, we can kind of resize this to better fit this right here. So that makes sense for this product. We can track inventory if you have it in stock, if you actually have a warehouse that is, and you can add a stock keeping unit or SKU as people call it. So maybe this is 1001. And if you have a barcode, you can add that in here as well. You can then add product options. So maybe you have different sizes. We can have colors is another common one here. So maybe we have colors, and the colors could be, maybe we have these 3 colors here. We'll say add. And now we have 3 variants. If you click on edit variants, you're able to change the prices for them. You're able to change your quantity, how many you have in stock for all of them. And you can allow, you know, pre-order, for example, if you sell out or something like that. So let's apply and continue. You can also have other modifiers that don't actually require special pricing or inventory. So these would be like, do you want to have, made to order embroidery, or if you want to add custom text or things like that, you can have that as a modifier. You can display more info. So this could be return policy, it could be product care or something like that. And we don't have our shipping set up yet, but I think we're ready to go. Oh, also you can set up subscriptions if you want. Maybe subscribe and save is a great way to kind of have recurring revenue if you're selling, again, something like supplements. So let's save this, and we now have our first product on here. Adding more products is easy. You just click on new product and you're able to follow that same process. You could also set up gift cards down here. So if you want people to be able to buy a digital gift card to your store, they can do that and it'll send it to them by email and they can, give it to somebody else as a nice gift. And if you want to build a blog on your website, you can click on blog and you're able to either use AI to generate blog posts very quickly, or you can write your own ones by clicking create new post. Wix also does a really good job of allowing you to rank on Google, or I should say helping you to rank on Google by going on the left side. If you go to site and mobile app, you'll see website and SEO. SEO is search engine optimization. And so if you click on that, there's a couple options. There's also site speed, as you see right there. You've got uptime and security, and you have website settings there. But SEO is going to essentially tell you what is going well on your website, what's performing well. You can connect to Google here and see where you're ranking in search, how people are interacting with your website. And you get a lot of analytics here that can help you to kind of change different parts of your website. For example, we have 4 issues on the website. If I click on view tasks, it's going to tell us right now, it doesn't even let search engines visit and index this site. So we need to make sure that we let them do this. We'll click on apply, and they kind of walk you through this in a really easy way. Wix used to call this their SEO wizard. They don't call it that anymore, but it's kind of the same idea of you can go through this and it'll just give you a really easy way to set up and optimize your entire website just by clicking through those little tasks. Now, there are a number of other things that are much more advanced when you're setting up your website, but I think for most beginners, that's pretty much everything you need to know to start ranking on Google, start selling things, and ultimately get your business online with a pretty good looking website with very little effort. Like I made this entire website in the past, 25 or 30 minutes. So I wish you all the best of luck. Leave a comment down below and let me know what your website is, any questions you might have, anything I should include in future videos like this. And I wish you all the best of luck. I hope to be a visitor on your website someday. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in a future video.